After reviewing the first Uncharted game, I was blown away by what Naughty Dog could do back in 2007, and upon replay, it seems pretty clear Sony was taking a big risk in letting the Crash Bandicoot studio make a game outside of their wheelhouse. And boy did that risk pay off. When credits rolled on Uncharted Drake's Fortune, all I could think was more. I was excited to play this game in this series because with that risk, they held a tighter leash on Naughty Dog, but after they'd proven themselves, I was excited to see what they could really do. So let's see what a proven Naughty Dog can do in this spoiler review of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. And let me tell you, they really wanted you to leave any doubt behind on what they're capable of. The first game wasn't a fluke. They didn't get lucky. They wanted to give you the experience that you remember having as soon as possible by making one of the best and most iconic openings in gaming history. It's so good that people saw that Mission Impossible movie and thought they ripped this game off. The experiences you had from the first game that were built up to after hours of gameplay are now the first thing you see. And what really makes this opening special is that Naughty Dog had somehow fallen into the illusion that anything they had to say mattered at all. Now let me cover my ass. The dialogue and these cutscenes between Nate, Chloe, and this guy Flynn, who sounds really familiar, they do matter. These are really well-written scenes, but when you splice them in between scenes of our protagonist dying and clutching onto the back of a train hanging off a cliff, you cannot pay me to care, even if those cutscenes are the direct cause of how we got here. They're very important, crucial even to the plot, but for some reason, they threw them into the most iconic part of the game, which makes the player go from, oh, I cannot wait to see how this plays out and how Nate's gonna survive this, to, oh, this is the part where I put down my controller because they're talking now. Both of these experiences would have been flawless if they simply kept them separate, but I feel like they got too invested in starting off with a bang, and they overthought it and assumed they had to immediately establish context as to what caused that bang. And it's so weird that they overthought the opening, but not the other sections of this game where those issues are prominent. They go out of their way to make this game bigger than the last without figuring out how it would make sense. What is this hidden giant golden dagger for? First off, this looks like something out of God of War. That is a bit nitpicky, but like, what is the point of this? Who made this giant golden mechanical dagger to lead people to a city that does not want people? If you want to join the city alone, why leave a clue for a treasure hunt? And if you want to expose the city to a world, why make a clue for a treasure hunt? I understand people like worshipping the stone and the powers it gives you and making statues of it, but why make them mechanical and lead to the actual city of Shambhala if you want it to remain hidden? There's no logical reason in the lore, but the real reason is to outdo the last game. But even then, from a puzzle standpoint, it still doesn't work, because to get the light reflections correct and solve the puzzle, you have to break part of the puzzle. It's all for the spectacle and loses the plot. The same way blatantly robbing a museum feels off for this franchise, and the same way you put the dagger in a door-shaped keyhole, only for it to open a door all the way back somewhere you've already been. I think it was Video Game Donkey that coined this term, but it's an artificial game lengthener. So many chapters, plot points, and inconveniences are only there so the game can last longer because they did not want the sequel to have less chapters or a shorter playtime than the original. So yes, Uncharted 2 goes a little too far in their style. They get a little too big for their britches. But does that ruin the overall style this game is going for? Not at all. I love this take on action that adds humor to it. It is badass with some of the coolest set pieces you'll ever see. Despite the fact that Avatar is to film what Horizon is to video games, I still think the Avatar style set piece at the end of the game with giant blue people is really cool, especially because this game is older than Avatar. But not only is it badass, it makes the average player who couldn't do things like this relate to the character by doing the same thing Indiana Jones does, and add comedy by highlighting the absurdity of the situation. Just like Indy, Nathan is in a situation that escalates and escalates in just how screwed he is, to the point that it could not possibly get any worse. And then it gets worse. Is it upsetting to see just how mindless this game can get in its attempts to impress you with its action? Yes. But those problems are at the very least outweighed by how good of a job they do implementing this style of action in other aspects. And while I am willing to take the good with the bad is still worth acknowledging because some people won't be willing to. And the bad part is that this game's great set pieces also tank the performance. Like graphically, this game still kind of looks like buns. Nate's model has this weird seam on the side of his neck, and I can't for the life of me find where, but I swear I've seen this awful snow effect in a Lego game somewhere, but seriously, who cares? This is a PS3 game. You gotta take into consideration that this at least looked good at the time, and while it's not crazy, there is a substantial upgrade here graphically. What is this? Why did this happen? I mean, I don't know if you could tell from my Uncharted 1 review, but back in 2007, Naughty Dog had a little hard time making on-rails combat, and based on this glitch, I think I can deduce that they hadn't quite figured it out in the 2 years it took to make this game. And hey, I'm not dogging on them. I can't develop a game in modern day, let alone with technology that old. I'm just saying, this is a problem. Similar thing happened with another mobile on-rails combat section in this game, but I want to see if you guys can spot it. It may only be visible to my more eagle-eyed viewers, but see if you can tell me what's wrong in this clip. If you would like to phone a friend, now would be the time. But one of the most irritating parts of this game's technical performance isn't where it sucks, it's where it has sucked and doesn't improve. Yet again, Nathan just does not go where I want him to go at times, and while this is the least consequential example I could use, it's the most asinine. He jumps off this ladder onto a ledge, which leads to the exact same destination as the ladder instead of just jumping up a few rungs. Why? And like 30 seconds before this, while I was trying to figure out where to go, the game just killed me. Dog, I could survive that fall, and I'm not one of those goobers who think they could land a plane off the fly. I will fully acknowledge that I have glass bones and am fat. But like, even for me, that is a sprained ankle at worst. But despite the fact that every once in a while a 3-foot drop will make Nathan shatter like ceramic, this game did enhance what made the first Uncharted so special, and that's the climbing, but more so, the environment. Naughty Dog knew they had something special here and decided to go the opposite direction of their last game in the best way possible. You know how street signs in games are only there as decorations to make cities feel more real and for you to knock over with your car? They had the groundbreaking idea to make those actually matter. I know the way I delivered that makes it seem like a joke, but seriously, the only thing funny is that I can't think of any other game that did this beforehand in a major way. But Uncharted 2 actually broke the mold here by having you progress through the level by climbing around street signs. It's not perfect, we're so used to off-model ledges from the last game and bricks conveniently sticking out of buildings in this one to notice them at first, and when you do figure out you're supposed to climb on them, they're only in the city section of the game and never really seen again. But it's undeniably a step in the right direction, or do I need to remind you where we've been? And it's so simple but so smart. They use the shape of the signs, just a rectangle, to the fullest by letting you easily hop on either side for platforming while also providing natural cover from gunfire. And all these elements cohesively blend into the perfect example of how this game approaches combat, where you're fighting off enemies coming in from all angles and you have to hop between signs and stay on the right side to keep your cover from the gunfire. Because that's how combat works in Uncharted 2. You use the same simple geometric piece of the combat arena in every single way possible. That may seem like a rudimentary idea. The doy don't get shot, dummy. But it's especially impressive when you realize the style of gameplay that was popular around the time of this game's release, where you hide, kill everyone between you and your next hiding spot, hide again, rinse and repeat. That doesn't mean Uncharted and Call of Duty have nothing in common though. No. What's really awesome about both of these games is that when I shoot the guns, it makes me feel like I'm falling asleep at the wheel. It's not all of the guns, really only 3, the AK, the 45, and the 9mm, but those are far and away the most common guns you'll find throughout the game. You mostly only use those 3 at the start, and when all 3 of them take like 10 rounds to even drop an enemy to his knees, you'll be waiting for enemies with better guns to show up like it's Christmas morning. It's a really underrated part of combat, but any sort of tactility you can bring is crucial. The Leviathan axe would be nothing without the weight behind each swing. Ellie's bow would be nothing without the strain of pulling the string back. And the lack of any impact on these guns' bullets, combined with the poor enemy balancing and just how long these encounters can be, makes me feel like I'm playing through a Nerf commercial. And you know what? I get screwed over by this game so often I could teach a class on it. Whether it be the glitches, the paintball guns, dying from falling off when I so much as step off a curb, and especially the stealth. Dude. Someone on the Naughty Dog team got shoved into one too many lockers in high school and decided to take out their frustration by making mandatory stealth sections that lack basic stealth mechanics. It was made by weenies for weenies, but it's okay. It's okay because it's all worth it. Uncharted 2 could have the combat of Hellblade, the graphics of Tetris, and the stealth of those Mary Jane missions, and then it would break even in quality. Because what holds this game up is the same thing I complained about earlier. The spectacle. When you look at it in terms of like being sensical, yeah, I don't know about that. But when you look at it in terms of actually playing the video game, it is unmatched. Holding onto the beam of a broken wall skyscrapers high as an enemy chopper sets its sights on you, only to fire grenades at that same helicopter minutes later, finding openings to run past a tank to grab a rocket and hope it finishes it off, dodging incoming fire as you help your new ally find someplace safe as he suffers from his gunshot wound, fighting your way up a runaway train, trading shots as you slide around and jump out of a collapsing building? This is what I'm talking about from an unleashed Naughty Dog. Sony saying, you have an idea? take our money and do it. This is the spectacle they couldn't make in Drake's Fortune, finally coming to fruition, and it's what makes the series so iconic. What I really like about these set pieces too is that they can be used to tell a story. Like how Chloe wants to move on when Nate's trying to save Jeff, which leads to the conclusion of her character arc, where she refuses to leave a wounded Elena. Other than that though, Chloe is undeniably present in this story. Her whole character is, "Oh Nathan, I want to have sex with you." All they do is talk about each other's butts, like, hello, that's where poop comes from. And her lack of depth is really unfortunate because she has the most interesting circumstances of anyone here, with her being a mole in Lazarevic's army and sort of being on both sides. And even beforehand, she is the most I'm down with Flynn betraying Nate character I have ever seen, and then she doesn't know Flynn was gonna betray Nate. That's not a twist. You'd have to plant seeds for that or write her in a more nuanced way. That's some Liquid Ocelot writing. But to be fair, I said you'd have to write her with more nuance. The actual script and performances by the actors are very nuanced. Like the little subtleties in Nathan and Chloe's behaviors where it's clear they know each other when they first meet if you know what's coming. And Nate himself is really well written and really funny.
What do we have here?
Careful.
Christ almighty.
Just kidding.
And they haven't missed a step. He's still his old, only killing mercenaries who are hunting him down self. They even bring it up.
Oh, that's brilliant. Guns? What are you thinking?
Relax, Gandhi. They're tranquilizer guns, totally non-lethal. Your conscience will remain unscathed. There's a guy above you. There's a guy above you. Lights out. There's a guy below you. There's a guy below you.
Okay, that actually contradicts my point, so we're gonna move past that and say I'm right. And there's that voice I can't pinpoint. It's gonna drive me crazy, but whatever. Flynn's okay. He has some inconsistencies, like how he rushes Nathan to leave the museum, only to then make him wait to give the guards a head start when he double crosses him, but I guess that's nitpicking. He's only there to be the anti-Nate, but only worse. Kind of like Navarro. It's just a shame because both of these matches to Nathan take a backseat to the other antagonist, and I wish he took the lead role. But if he's gonna take a backseat to anyone, it may as well be Lazarevic. He's pretty shallow in terms of writing, but he has such a presence about him that makes him a great villain, and I love how since he's only human, he drinks the resin to make the boss fight live up to his reputation. Lazarevic is so imposing, it made me realize I don't think I've ever been this intimidated by a villain since Volgin in MGS3. Maybe because he's Volgin. I'm probably reading too much into this, but like, he's chasing the Chintamani stone like the Philosopher's Legacy. The game starts off with a plan that goes awry and you retry it months later. Nate is trying to stop someone from becoming all-powerful with the designated sex appeal character of the game playing both sides. The first stealth section of this game that isn't a tutorial is in the jungle. Not to say they're ripping off Metal Gear. I do think about those games a lot, so maybe I'm just seeing it anywhere, but it is a bit similar. So how about instead we compare Uncharted 2 to a game that can actually be compared to Uncharted 2? What a novel idea. Does this game have a better story than the first? Well, they certainly tell it better than the first does. It feels much more natural and fluid. I feel like they did it well in the first game too, but things like having mystery voice actor on the tip of my tongue character, Harry Flynn be inexperienced like the player so Nate and Chloe have someone to explain it to, is a really solid technique. The writing is much more clever than the first as well. Not in terms of character writing and dialogue, but the way they get from set piece to set piece, which could have been a problem considering there really was no globetrotting in the first. Like Nathan goes to the jungle in Borneo where Marco Polo was supposed to be, and he can't find any trace of his or his men's remains. Now, if that were me, I'd use my seasoned veteran gamer brain power to analyze the situation and say, yeah, pack it up, Sully, I got no idea where to go from here. But see, Nathan Drake has played Crash Bandicoot on the original PS1, so he's got a little bit more experience than me, which he uses to ask, why are all of Marco Polo's ships so far inland? And the answer is because they got swept up in that tsunami he writes about, which he thinks is a curse from a higher power for taking the dagger or pieces of the stone. So Nathan says if a tsunami hit, you'd want to go to higher ground. So they climb up the nearest mountain where they find Marco Polo's crew's remains. Same with how Nathan and Elena's stories cross over. She's her own character with her own life. She hasn't been stagnant since the last time she saw Nathan Drake. She continues to chase stories so important they revolve around war criminals, and in fact, it actually feels more like Nathan is coincidentally treasure hunting near Elena's reporting than it feels like Elena is coincidentally reporting near Nathan's treasure hunt. The only problems I have in the way that they deliver the story are the same as the first, where it gets pretty convenient, like how the dagger happens to be perfectly sticking out of the snow and not get lost in it or fall all the way down the canyon. But that's the cost of having an awesome shot like this, so I'm willing to look past it. What really irritates me is how Sully says if they jump off this cliff into the river, they are going to die. They jump off the cliff into the river. Why'd you even write that, dude? Obviously, Nathan has and will survive worse than this, but they always show how he manages to weasel his way out of danger. They use his actions. Here, not only does it feel like a coin flip, you either break your neck or you don't, but I'd be willing to suspend my disbelief if a character didn't verbally give credence to my disbelief. In terms of what actually happens in the story though, as events on a timeline, I much prefer the last one. This is so much more of an artificial setup treasure hunt than it is following someone's tracks, like it's supposed to be with Marco Polo and like how it was with Sir Francis Drake. Sully shows up for 2 seconds and leaves forever. The Tibetan village after the train crash is like chapter 5 of Red Dead 2 where it almost doesn't feel real. Like the idea that these characters end up here is so weird and out of left field that it feels like a dream I had. Dutch Vanderlyn stranded on an island is on the same level as Nathan Drake waking up in a village in the mountains where an older version of himself from the 1930s and 40s lives. That reminds me, do you know what the most insane dropped plot point of this story is? Carl Schaefer, the old man who leads Nathan to his old expedition site, is a Nazi. You find the remains of his partners from his expedition, and Nathan points out that they are SS, and they completely avoid talking about it and continually try to save Schaefer regardless. And I've played this game before. I did not remember his inclusion in this game, let alone his political alignment in the 40s, so I looked it up just to be sure. Nazi! And a huge part of what makes the mountain section and finding Shambhala weird to me is the Guardians. First off, they're these weird Yeti monsters at first, but turn out to be real, I want to say undead, blue, superpowered feral humans in costumes, which they wear to ward off people from finding the city. I think I'd be pretty scared if I saw one of these things charging at me, so that plot twist is a bit unnecessary. Second, who are these people? Like, they made it clear who the descendants were in Drake's fortune. The Guardians are just here. I do like the twist of the Chintamani stone though, like how there actually is a big resin blob, but it's more of a type of stone like granite or something. And most statues of the stone are bigger than the actual blob as they're depicting the material itself. I just wish they focused on making Shambhala a bigger deal, because if they find the stone, they find the city. So they find the city and they don't really care. Like, they acknowledge it, but dude, soak it in. You just found a lost city. Why is this the one set piece in the game that doesn't get any narrative focus? But Uncharted 2 was exactly what I thought I wanted. More Uncharted. Turns out what I actually wanted was a better Uncharted. That's not to say the first one or this one is bad. I just feel like they should have made more improvements because it's just more Uncharted. They do make improvements, but they proportionally make more mistakes to have it even out. Even just in terms of chapter count, there's more than the first, but more of them are shoehorned in and just completely suck. So since it's pretty much the same in quality, but it captures that Uncharted feel a bit better and has so much more impressive scale, I'm bumping it up half a point to give Uncharted 2 Among Thieves an 8.5 out of 10. Hopefully, Drake's deception picks up that slack that I know who he is!
What is that thing doing in my background?